I'm offended.
Alright, let me get this on screen. We're almost there, guys.
Alright, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
Alright, there we are. Hi. Hi, everybody. So this is Dungeon World. Dungeon World is a tabletop role-playing game that we play a lot of. We usually do it every Sunday, but we've had a little bit of time off because of various things. So, getting back into the swing of things is going to be interesting. Ignore L's character on the overlay because L's character is spoiler. L's character is dead. D-E-D, dead.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. But isn't that what the IRL stream is? Music and random talking? Yeah. That's actually the IRL category on Twitch. I should probably just make an IRL stream. I should just stay live 24/7. Like, we could just, everything I do in the day, I'll just stream it.
Totally.
Oh,
Strap a GoPro to your head and stream 24/7. Although it'll make peeing kind of awkward.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I don't know if that's entirely Twitch appropriate.
Yeah. So this is this is a winding path through some trees and some mountains, it looks like. And this is some scenery, I suppose, of what we're about to get into. So this is all spoilers. And this is my character right here, Jaylin. So I'm playing a fighter who happens to also be a werewolf. Shh. It's a secret. And then yeah, that's what I know. Oh yeah, we have a dwarf companion now.
Alright. When we last left our intrepid heroes, you guys had just gotten away from dealing with some fairy affairs in an enchanted part of the Great Forest. You saved a unicorn. You killed a tyrant. You had a companion die. And upon leaving all of that and making camp, you guys were attacked by a group of dwarven thieves, of which you now have Rolly, who is agreed to become your retainer. And it is evening, and you're sitting around the campfire. And a certain person has closed upon you and is close enough to be listening. But she has not been seen. But Lillith, you are close enough to hear the conversation.
Oh, we got a spy in our midst, huh?
And Rolly is telling the group the story of why he of what he wants you all to do with him. And he says that King Stormheart, who is the grandfather of King Nogin Mithril-Leg, and 4 heroic companions, led an army to the Border Valley some 500 years ago to fight on behalf of the Garnet Dragon, Algol World Shaper, against the elves of the Great Forest who were attempting to invade. And King Stormheart's army slaughtered the elves, but only after the king unleashed some kind of forbidden magic. Exact details are unknown, but he was abandoned by Algol and buried in a tomb in the valley along with his 4 champions. And Rolly has a map, and he unrolls it for you and lets you pass it around the fire, and it's actually the black and white map shown above.
Okay.
And he goes, his tomb is somewhere in there. He goes, it was sealed by his son, Thokkel Goldshield, who became the king after him until some 20 years ago when he was assassinated by a human cult called the Zodiac while he was off on some mission of some kind to the Wolf King. And then the Wolf King was slain by the Abyss Walkers, and they now are attempting to rule to take over all the kingdoms all over the place. And then he kind of stops and he pokes at the fire. And he goes, so me and my friends heard rumors in a tavern up at East Rivergate that the magics that were keeping King Rolly's tomb had begun to decay. And then I spoke to my sister-in-law, who's a fortune teller. And Gertrude told me that if we found the Seekers of the Lost who were coming from the Great Forest, they would have the key to unlocking the tomb. And we saw you, and I thought you seemed like you were the Seekers of the Lost, so we sort of ambushed you thinking we would just steal your key. Maybe I was being a little too literal.
Jaylin's like just looking blankly at everyone else, like, key?
So what do you all do?
Yeah, Mathin's kind of the same as Jaylin at the moment. Just like, yeah, we certainly don't. And I've never heard of where one would be, or what exactly this key is.
Can't say I've heard any of it myself, but Jaylin's like, none of us are from this world. But he doesn't say that out loud. He's gonna be like, you know. He looks over to Kethra, actually.
Kethra just leans over to the to the little dwarf, and just kind of like runs her fingers through the through like the ends of his beard, like she's like flirting with him, and then she grabs it and like pulls his face real close and says, "What makes you think we have the key?"
I love how she's been treating this dwarf.
And he yelps and he goes, my sister-in-law, Gertrude, she said the Keepers of the Lost and go, we're the key to, oh, you're the key, not you have the key. That really hurts, by the way. Could you let go, please? And he's like patting her knee.
And she just winks and says, "Only if you can behave, young dwarf."
Oh, I will. I assure you.
And she lets him go.
I am now. I am your loyal minion, priestess. Everyone is allowed to make a discern realities roll if you feel like it.
I would like to discern some reality.
Lillith
Go for
too?
it.
Can Lillith make a roll?
Yeah, can Lilith make this roll?
Lilith can.
What's discern realities again?
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Oh, good. Lilith has lots.
All right.
Oh,
Lots of XP going out.
Mathin, let's start with your one question.
okay. Discern realities. Let's see. What should I be on the lookout for?
And do you want to make this a choice about looking at the map or looking at your surroundings?
Let's go with a map.
Well, if it's a dwarven tomb, you know that they like to work in stone.
Okay.
So the tomb itself, if that's what you decide to go looking for, is probably somewhere in at least the hills, if not the mountains that surround the valley. But in addition, if there was this force of an army of elves from the Great Forest who were slaughtered by some kind of forbidden magic, finding the exact location of the battle and being very careful, either to skirt around it or to make sure that the forbidden magic isn't still there, eating into the nature of the place and corrupting it or have turned it corrupted, is probably important.
Okay.
Kethra, you get, is it 3 questions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start with what here is not what it appears to be. And I would like to address our current surroundings.
You realize that you are not alone. There is someone else you feel a presence very nearby.
Okay. What here is useful or valuable to us?
Obviously, the map is, but you get a feeling that in your limited learning about dwarves, mostly through having Meredith as a companion, that Rolly, despite his original how you met him and how easily he and his were taken capture, you realize now he was intentionally not trying to kill you, and he's probably more useful and a better fighter than first circumstances demonstrated. And he's probably no Meredith, but he's probably more useful than at first glance.
Okay. What is about to happen?
You get the feeling that either whoever is out in the forest is going to approach, or others in your party are going to realize that somebody is there and investigate.
All right. I think that Kethra is going to get to her feet having learned all this knowledge. And she's going to say, Master Dwarf, would you accompany me to the edge of the camp? I get the feeling we aren't alone.
And he draws his daggers, and he's going to use his night sight to or his kind of night vision to start scurrying around.
Jaylin looks up and then checks to see where Iago is.
Iago is curled up near Mathin, like half asleep after a good meal in the story and half awake.
Yeah, so hearing Kethra's words and seeing Jaylin like look around, Mathin just kind of nods to Jaylin like, he's here, he's safe.
And I just kind of put my hand up to Jaylin though and say, no, let's see what he can do. And I just kind of like start walking around the perimeter of our camp. And I say, all right, I know you're out there. Might as well make yourself known.
I'm going to hide in the bushes.
Excellent.
What is it with changelings and bushes? Sorry.
Changeling's like a good bush.
Oh, baby.
Oh my.
Roll defy danger, Lilith. Based on dex or intelligence. Dex for having gone to finding your hiding place quickly and silently. Intelligence of coming up with one that's really clever.
I'm going deck, because I have more deck.
And you see, well, we'll give. I do not see him beating that roll, but just in case, seeing if he can somehow beat a 10.
Ooh.
So, Rolly, Kethra, leads you to the part of the woods where Lilith had been before she hid, and puts down. And he goes, "I see. Do you see here? There's a small feminine footprint. It's like it's the foot's very narrow. This is no dwarf, and this isn't very big. But I can't. It's just a single footprint. There's no. And so he starts kind of fumbling around, and he comes really close to where Lilith is hidden. Like she can just watch him walk by, but he doesn't see her.
Can I transform into, what's this guy's name, Broly?
Yes, you can.
Broly? I'm sorry.
Broly.
What's his name?
Yeah, that's his name now. It's Broly.
Okay.
He's the original Super Saiyan.
Roly. Okay.
Broly.
Broly.
Slowly?
Broly, Oli.
Broly, Oli. Yep.
So roll whatever it takes for you to shape change.
Charisma, glamorous deceit. Let's go.
Yay!
Boom. You make a perfect copy.
Yeah. So what's Roly doing right now?
He's like studying the ground, walking past you. He's headed back to where he saw that footprint of yours.
Okay, so like as he's
listening, yeah.
As he's like going back to the footprint, I'm gonna like walk up behind him, lean over his shoulder, and I'm gonna say, it looks like she went that way.
And he goes, it sure does. And then he like jumps and he turns and he's staring at himself.
I'm gonna try and do the mirror thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? When two people copy the same actions.
Doing the same exact thing. I would say that I haven't done this before, but I have.
Mm-hmm. I'm just super thankful no one has a great sword in this party, because last time this happened, bad things happened, okay?
And Rolly's like raising one of his daggers, and as you raise it up in a mimic way, he takes a couple of steps back, and he goes, "Lady Kethra, I think I'm being attacked by a doppelganger, or worse, or."
I'm just gonna look at both of us and just kind of smile and say, I don't think you've been attacked yet, Master Dwarf.
I'm gonna, like, as he's saying or worse, I'm gonna lean in and whisper, much worse. And then I'm gonna start tickling him.
But it does appear you've made a friend who makes the mischief.
Roll your dexterity.
I rolled to tickle. Aww.
Yeah.
Oh, take your XP.
Take your XP.
You've learned from failing to tickle.
He's apparently not very ticklish, and so he actually manages to grapple you and is holding on to you. He's not tickling back. He's also not hurting you, but he shouts and he goes, "I have the fake me, mistress."
I'm gonna
Quick, we need some rope.
I'm gonna call out, no, don't listen, he's the fake me.
I am not the fake me. Besides, if you are me, you tell her something about me that she would know and you don't. Wait. And like his lack of intelligence is starting to show. And he goes, "Wait, that wouldn't work. Tell her how we met."
I'm not doing that. That's just giving information to the enemy.
See, he is the doppelganger.
If you're the real me, why don't you tell her how we met?
We were sneaking, me and my companions were sneaking in.
Rolly.
What? What?
Rolly.
Yeah.
I love Kethra right now.
Yes, mister.
My darling friend Dwarf, you have much to learn about trickery.
Well, I was, a sheep farmer until a month ago. And then trolls ate my sheep.
Oh, I am sorry to hear of your sheep, but
So I'm becoming a bandit to support my family. My wife and our 19 children.
19 children, oh my.
Well, I'm not that young of a dwarf.
You are a productive young man, aren't you?
We have a baby every year, and a couple of times we had twins.
Your poor wife. And then I'm going to turn to the fake Rolly and say you have no need to fear us, friend.
So, Laurel, can I make this more interesting?
Oh, wait.
Can I use my magic to do to both of them what I did to Jaylin?
Remind me what that was.
Dress?
Put them in a dress? Yes.
Yes.
Roll your spellcasting.
Ooh, a 9. That's gonna make this interesting.
Wait, on Constitution?
Wait, shit, that was the wrong roll. There we go, that's better.
That's a much better roll.
Describing exactly what happens to them.
Hold on, I'm gonna choose one of the downsides. And I'm gonna say that the spell affects them much more than I wanted it to. And instead of just them appearing to be wearing a dress, they've also got full makeup and their hair done. And both the dwarves just appear to be wearing ball gowns and looking very feminine.
And their knives have turned into a silver fork and spoon. And one of them's looking at the other, and the other one's looking at that. And Lilith, what do you do?
My voice is gonna change change back to normal. I'm like, they're so pretty.
Really goes, I am pretty. Oh, this hurts. I don't know what to do.
Kethra is just beside herself with laughter.
Jaylin has now walked up, because all this commotion is going on. He's just standing next to Kethra going,
Iago, of course, has come to tag along, and it starts seeing them and just laughs. Laughs and laughs and laughs. Rolly goes, this is not funny. Someone has cursed me with femalehood.
As all these witnesses walk out.
And Jaylin is Jaylin's just like, I'm just so sorry for you. And there.
And Rolly, he starts clasping at his chest, and he goes, okay, no boobs. And he clashes between. Oh, good, thank goodness.
Cover
I
Iago's
can
eyes.
accept you if you like, Mr. Dwarf.
No. Why? Who would do this?
I know exactly who did this. Come on, let's get back to camp and let you ladies change.
But we haven't established who the imposter is and what they're up to.
Rolly, I have no doubt in my mind who our imposter is. And I know it isn't you. Come along.
Fine. Can I at least... Oh, what is this on my face? Oh, I smell like strawberries and vanilla. And he sniffing his hand after brushing it over his hair. He goes, And he tries licking it, and he goes, oh, no taste.
And Kethra, in her super mean but flirty way, just leans over and runs her fingers through his beard again and says, Master Dwarf, you are lucky you told me you were married. And she just walks back to the camp.
Oh my goodness.
His jaw drops. And he goes,
I'm beginning to understand why Mathin chose to live in the middle of nowhere.
And Mathin, because he wandered over with Iago, and he just looks at Jaylin and is just like, right? You understand now?
And Iago is kind of playing with his bracelet and is smiling at at Lilith, and he goes, you're funny.
Thank you.
He goes, did you come from the enchanted forest and follow us? Are you one of the fairy? Oh, yay!
You guys look like fun, so I thought I'd come too.
I'm glad.
And she smiles.
There's Jaylin just standing there wearing full Fey armor. It's like, yeah, fun. We're fun.
Hey, Jaylin, would you like to join the lovely ladies?
I will wear a dress on my own time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I mean, what?
And Iago whispers to Mathin and goes, was Kethra flirting with all of them?
And he just pats Iago on the shoulder and taking that classic line from Kethra is just like, you'll understand when you're older.
I'm not sure I want to.
I'm not sure I want to either.
Good. So everyone gets back to camp. What are we doing now?
Has Lilith changed back to herself yet?
Yes.
Or to a non-dwarven form? I should say.
She'll change back to herself after they get back to camp. And just kind of sit there.
How long have you been following us?
A little while.
Would you like to introduce yourself? He goes, I'm Jaylin.
Oh, I'm Lilith. Lilith the Spectacular.
Iago claps his hands and goes, I'm Iago. And I don't know what I am yet. I have to earn my name.
Iago the Indomitable.
And he goes, how do you spell that?
And Jalen's like,
What does it mean?
It sounds good.
It sounds like somebody you couldn't top over if you push them.
It means that you're impossible to defeat.
Yes! I was close.
You can't be overcome.
I like that a lot. And he flexes his arms.
And Jalen's like, yeah.
And as he flexes his arms, just along the sides of his neck in the firelight, you see some green incandescent scales appear for a second.
Jaylin smiles and goes and pats him on the shoulder and goes, keep it up.
Yeah, Mathin sees that and he gives a very deep, exaggerated bow and just says, "A mighty warrior indeed."
Thank you.
That's about the most adorable thing I think I've seen so far.
And then so he turns and he goes, and this is Mathin, the only one with sense among us, except for Kethra, but I mean she's female.
Yeah, and Mathin just kind of looks at Lilith because being in the forest and yeah, he's had. I'm assuming anyway he'll have had dealings with the kind of fae, and he just nods to Lilith and he's like, "Yeah, you're going to be interesting."
Lilith waves with her fingers and smiles.
Kethra stands up next to Lilith, and I am Kethra. You know, you didn't really have to hide from us.
I know, but it was fun.
And Kethra just laughs and says that it was. Don't mind our dwarf friend. He's a little special.
But he's the most fun.
Really goes, I am special. I mean, I bet none of you have been sheep farmers, and I bet none of you have 19 mouths to feed. 20 counting my wife herself. 21 counting me.
And Kethra just pats him on the head. I meant no offense, sir. I meant no offense.
Rough.
I don't have 19 mouths to feed. She'll cross her arms, but I know how to keep it in my pants.
He gets red in the face.
Jaylin is just not. He's just not there for that conversation. He's just like, nope.
It starts drifting towards dawn. Iago passes out and gets some actual sleep. Who else sleeps and who stays up?
Mathin stays up.
Alexandra stays up.
Jaylin sleeps.
To sleep. Sleepy.
Sleeps.
Nothing attacks the camp. Nothing else approaches the camp during the night. It is a beautiful sunrise. And you guys are able to get a start and continue on and get all the way out of the forest. I should say. And you see ahead of you the mouth of the river and the village there. And Rolly gestures and says that is East and West Rivers Gate. And beyond it is Border Valley. And it's the mostly dwarven settlements. There's been a few others that have joined in or passed through. It's one of the few places around here that has any kind of industry, and so the farmers will come and get goods, but it's the great, basically they protect the valley from incursions of creatures from the great forest. So it has a militia. And he turns and he looks directly at Mathin and he goes, "It's probably a good idea if we don't stop there. My people still aren't fond of the elves of the Great Forest."
And Mathin sighs and said, "I wondered after your tale how I would be received."
We could pretend he's a prisoner.
And a thoughtful look comes across his head, and he says, "Then again, they don't have to see me as an elf."
And Rolly kind of thinks about the nods and goes, "I suppose." And he points at Alexandra and goes, "Your tricks would work on him too, wouldn't they?"
Tricks? My dwarf, how dare you accuse me of such things? They are magnificence of the eye. Tricks is such a dirty word. But
Okay.
yes, they would work.
Well, it's probably a good idea to use them.
So, dwarf, what races are welcome around here?
Dwarven's best, but humans are tolerated.
How about halflings?
Yes, we don't see very many, but that's not bad by itself.
Okay, and one downside. The spell saps my energy and I take -1 to int until I have a few minutes to clear my head.
Okay.
But I'm going to turn Mathin into just your normal looking halfling.
So
Magically, Frodo Baggins joins the party.
how does that affect Mathin? Like, do I still appear to myself to be the same height? Like, what
Yeah,
exactly is
you
this change?
Only your appearance to other people is changed.
Okay, yeah.
And Lilith will hop up and down and go, oh, me next. And I'll try and change myself into a halfling.
Oh. Well,
Okay, it just doesn't work on a 6. Darn it.
Take your XP.
I did.
Wow, let's get plenty of XP to start off.
So there's a big puff of pink smoke, and then nothing happens. And Lilith looks at herself. She's like, "Oh, I hate when that happens."
Impressive, and a thumbs up. Wait, what?
Lilith crosses her arms and pouts.
Mind you, Lilith, you are much better looking how you are.
Aw, thank you.
Halflings are disgusting creatures.
But they're so cute.
Mathin just like turns to Alexandra and is like, "Wait, why did you turn me into one?"
Because having 2 dwarves would look suspicious.
Not with the way they breed. He's got 19 kids.
Grandfather always taught me dwarves travel in packs of 3.
And he goes, well, sometimes we do, but not always.
Are you accusing my grandfather of being a liar?
No. Not at all.
I'm sure he meant no offense, Alexandra.
Oh, it's a shame. If he was, I would have actually accused him of having balls.
But wait, I do. And he checks again.
Cover
Oh,
Yago's
you made a
eyes.
very, very pretty woman.
With 19 kids,
fine.
I bet you do.
Didn't want to think about that.
I have a very pretty wife.
How long is her beard?
And I'm sure she has a lot of pretty mistresses.
No. We're not those kinds of dwarves. Goes, on the other hand, my sister Gertrude, sometimes I don't know about her. But she's pretty powerful and respected in River's Gate. Would you like me to take you to her?
Yes. I'd like to know what we're meant to be the key of.
The key of awesome.
Isn't that obvious? We ignore the tomb because forbidden magic is something no one should be messing with.
I'd still like more information.
And he leads you guys up there. And Mathin,
Yes.
describe what you see up here. The settlement itself is mostly wood and stone. What do you see that you find most interesting?
I'm going to say that there's a few kind of little like houses in that roundabout, but it's mainly one kind of big structure, and all the dwarfs that are there, it's almost kind of like apartments. They've just built one huge kind of structure, and there might have been little kind of ones around about it, but it's mainly one big kind of maze-like building.
So sort of like a multi-level apartment.
Yes.
And as you go into it, you see, there's like 3 or 4 stories up on top, but the rest goes straight down underneath, and it's built into the stone itself. And Rolly starts leading you down. The air is remarkably fresh. And while the apartments and the little shops and whatnot that are through this kind of maze structure are simple, they're aesthetically pretty. And the dwarves that you encounter look prosperous and comfortable. And you guys get a few curious looks as you're walking through, but you can see that there's also other travelers. And you get to kind of the center of the peak, and everything opens up again, and it looks like it's a big circular tavern. And Rolly starts looking around, and towards the back there's a table with a brunette dwarf, who is uh his appearance when you shape changed him. There's some similarities between them. Oops, she's big. She shouldn't be so big. She's a little taller than her brother, or her brother-in-law, and he points at her and he goes, "That's Gertrude. She will expect to be paid for her services." What you guys gonna do?
I don't know. I'm over,
Mathin looks.
I'm over with Kethra just looking around at the place like, huh.
Mathin looks to us and said, "Do we actually have anything to pay her with?"
That's actually a good question.
I don't think we do.
I don't think we've been carrying any money with us, have we?
Mathin certainly doesn't have anything.
And he he goes, "Well."
Jaylin checks Rolly's pockets.
Lilith will will take this moment to hold up a nice little pouch and exclaim, "Lilith to the rescue! Bum ba da bum!"
And you guys all go towards the table booth.
Yes.
Jaylin's looking over to Lilith like, she has her own fanfare. I need my own fanfare.
And Gertrude looks at Rolly and he goes, "So you found them?" And she like scans her eyes across all of you. And she looks at Alexandra and goes, and kind of smiles and goes, "I sense powerful magic around you and several of your companions. Are you the practitioner of the arts?"
No. I'm just a noble girl just visiting town.
"Ah, then it must be you." And she gestures at Kethra. "You have the bearing of someone important."
And Kethra smiles at her and says, "I am a priestess of Bel, keeper of secrets, friends of thieves. And I understand you have some secrets you could share with us."
Not secret so much as I have uh the gift of the oracle. Um and I certainly, should you cross my palm with silver, be able to act upon your behalf, Seeker.
What an interesting condition to only be able to use your abilities when in the presence of money.
She goes, "Indeed." And she smiles and she goes, "Of course I do accept gemstones, favors." And she looks Jaylin up and down and she goes, sacks.
And Kethra stands between us and says, I'm sorry, he's not on the table. Not for you, anyway.
That's fine.
Jaylin looks down at the table and goes, pretty sturdy.
And Kethra just blushes.
And he goes, no, would we have a sample of your services to know that we're making a good investment with our coin?
I will give you one. I will give you one question, and I will give you a sentence in response. So choose wisely. Since you're friends with my brother.
Let's see.
Brother-in-law.
So he convenes with the others and he goes, what should we ask? The huddle. He's like, huddle.
Hold on, Laurel?
Yes.
Alexandra's gonna whisper to her and say, will you give us an extra question if I tell you how your brother looks in a dress?
And she starts smiling and laughing, and she goes, I'll give you a question in private.
Oh.
Oh my.
And she goes, I'll give you a question in private if you show me by doing it to him again.
Who said I did it?
Whichever.
Kethra is the magical one.
Ah, you're right. In that case, I'll just settle for the story. I don't want to disturb the seeker with such parlor tricks. Although
And
it would be really funny if she did it in public.
on that note, I would like to attempt to transform into Rolly wearing a dress again.
By all means, go ahead and roll.
Come on, charisma.
Oh, whoops, that's the wrong roll.
Oh, there you go.
Yay, 10 plus.
You look perfect. And she starts laughing. Rolly is face palming and putting his hands over his face. Everyone else who's kind of sitting there in the bar is looking at this and pointing and laughing.
Lillith will stand up and start doing a bunch of supermodel poses.
You get wolf whistles. You get a prosperous looking dwarven merchant takes his own purse out and shakes it and calls on you to start dancing.
I will totally start dancing.
I cover Iago's eyes.
Iago's like fighting, going, I can watch.
It's completely clean dancing, totally PG.
And you earn 3 more pieces, 3 more coins from your dancing alone.
Jaylin is now looking to Kethra and going, what should we ask?
Well, we did come to seek information about the tomb.
I don't think she'll give us that right away. If this is just to be a test, she won't give us exactly what we want.
Well, I kind of want to ask her
Jaylin.
something we already know to see if she's telling the truth about having...
Ask about your father.
Lillith will, at this point, Lillith will turn back to normal and be like, ooh, I have an idea for a question.
What's that?
And Lillith will turn to look at, what's her name, Gertrude?
Yes, Gertrude. Her
She'll
name.
look at Gertrude and dramatically point a finger at her and say, what's my favorite color?
Oh, no.
And she goes, gold. You love the color of gold.
How did you know?
She smiles. I'm a fortune teller. Now, I love the color of silver. And she holds out her hand.
Pay no mind to the fact that Lilith is literally covered in nothing but like golden
Gold.
yellow clothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Lilith is definitely somebody in the modern day that would be calling Miss Cleo. Call me now. And she's like, yes, absolutely, I'll call you right now.
Lilith, you just used our one question.
But she got it right. She's the real deal, guys.
Lilith, I could have guessed your favorite color is gold.
Are you a fortune teller too?
No, that's my point.
I get.
Now, Gertrude, you owe us an extra question. We showed you what Roni looks like in a dress.
That's fine. If you would like to have your question here in public instead of private, I'm happy to answer it. You've certainly earned it.
I would like to give my question to Jaylin.
Very well. And she gestures, and I'm guessing this one is Jaylin, and she points at Jaylin.
Very well. You must be a fortune teller. You guessed that he was
She
Jaylin.
did it again!
Um,
I don't know if he'll start clapping. She is very entertained by this.
he goes, I am, not from this world, but I'm led to believe that I am actually from this world. So I guess my question is... He's actually a little... He's like, he doesn't know how to phrase this because there's so many things he could ask. He doesn't want to use it on something. Sorry, this is a moment where... that is... The irony of this moment. Laurel, the GM, is NPCing the all-knowing Oracle, but has to stop to ask what the name of Jaylin's...
Recovering my game notes was one of the things that I didn't have time to do.
I actually don't remember his name. I don't know if I've ever been given
him a name.
Yeah.
We will use that as a first that first name there. We will
Alexander Hamilton?
We'll use Alexander Taus.
Okay.
Alexander the Great.
Goes, you know what? He goes, considering this is our first meeting, what can you tell me of my father?
And the GM's actually going to roll dice.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That doesn't happen too often.
And she's holding that coin in her that she was given in her hand. And she looks at Jaylin. And this time, her eyes start to shimmer. And they go very pale. And in a voice that kind of echoes, she goes, King Alexander Toss was a hero to the world. He brought light into the darkness, and his heart was pure. He was a servant of the great balance, despite his tainted wolf blood. And he was murdered by the minions of the evil that now serves to twist and rupture and destroy not just our world, but all worlds, and to descend it to destroy the tree and make us nothing but abyss. And she opens her eyes and looks right at Jaylin. And then she gets up and she bows. And she goes, Prince Jaylin Toss. And when she does that and her voice goes through, everybody else who was in that room, all those dwarves, like, get on the floor and bow.
He's
and and her eyes as she looks up at you are now pure white, and she goes, "You must not descend into King Stormheart's tomb without King Noggin's blessing. You must go to the king and ask his permission, and then seek it out."
What would happen if we don't?
You may still banish the darkness within, but you will be outlaws in the eyes of the king. You will be thieves. And he will make him your enemy instead of your ally. And he will be among your great allies in the restoration that is to follow, should you heed my words. And then her eyes sort of start change and roll in the back of her head, and she like falls back over, thud. And Rolly goes, she does that sometimes when it's a power when her forecasts are powerful enough. And he like goes and gets some wine from the in the tavern keeper and brings it over, and it's like cradling her head and patting her cheek and going to give her some wine.
Jaylin is squeezing Kethra's hand back, by the way. Like, doing what he can to not shake as he stands there.
So Mathin kind of looks around the room at all the dwarfs that had prostrated themselves before Jaylin and turns back to him and is like,
They are definitely
are.
whispering to each other at this point. They're like watching him and whispering. The rich merchant has some sort of, it looks like a couple of bodyguards, and he's whispering to them.
You're constantly full of surprises, my friend.
Because this is, well, I'd like to say it's all news to me, but, I wasn't expecting this. We should go see the king.
And Lilith's gonna whisper and she's gonna say, "I told you she was the real thing."
And Mathin sighs and says, I don't suppose we have any choice. I'm not sure if I like the idea, though. We have to be careful with you. If they're
Oh,
going to
no.
react like this, walking into the heart of the Dwarf Kingdom, who knows what will happen.
Jaylin actually whispers to make sure that it doesn't actually, like, he's trying to make sure his voice doesn't carry to the rest of the, to anyone else who's outside of the little group. And goes, I do worry that someone might think I'm worth some gold.
Rolly
Well,
goes, "You're probably worth a lot of gold." He goes, "The king lives in iron in Steelkeep, at the far end of the valley. We will have to traverse the entire valley." And he goes, "Going in the other direction, the river is the swiftest way to travel, but it's harder for boats because the current is so swift and it goes southward. It's easier to travel that way on foot or mounts. Um, I've never ridden one of the griffins that they do keep stabled here, and I don't know how many spare they have, but that is the fastest way to travel there. By foot, it will take us a couple of weeks."
Riley, how much do these griffins usually cost?
And he goes, I'm not sure. I could go ask.
How many
Indeed.
passengers
Bring
can a
me this
griffin carry?
information.
I think 2 or 3, if they're small enough. Like 2 or 3 dwarves.
Jaylin looks at Iago.
Mathin turns to Rolly, and he's like, "Well, it looks like word's going to travel anyway. What do you think will happen if we tell them that the great Prince Taus is coming to meet the king?"
Please don't add great to that.
And he goes, and then he looks at and he points at Kethra, and he goes, I could take her to the Griffin Keeper because she tends to be the most persuasive of you all, and she could probably maybe negotiate for us to simply borrow, and then be repaid by be rewarded by the king for bringing such an important guest to him.
It's worth a shot to try.
Does everybody else agree with this plan?
Yeah, except I wonder how long until Gertrude is up again, because I have one more question for her.
She is up. She's sort of blinking around, and she whispers to Rolly, she goes, "What did I say?" And he goes, You were talking about the old Wolf King. And that and Jaylin, and he points to him and he goes, "Apparently he's his son and heir." And she goes, "Really?" And she looks at Jaylin.
Because
You know,
oh,
Gertrude, you really should meet my grandfather.
She goes, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, if you ever find yourself in the Whispering Plains, head up to Flameheart Village.
I will do that. What's his name?
Nostradamus. He's a rather extravagant old man, but he is one of the very few mages in this world that has a mastery of time itself.
Very interesting.
And I'm sure he would find your little talent rather fascinating.
She goes, I will make a note of that. And Rolly suggests that the rest of you sit and eat and drink here in the inn, or here in the tavern level, and he's going to take Kethra all the way up to the top. So he says they might be gone about an hour.
Gertrude,
Yes.
do you have one more question in you?
For you, in exchange for a favor of to that I can call upon in the future, yes, I do.
He thinks about that one for a moment. He goes, my last memory of my family was here, I assume. My mother, myself, and my sister were fleeing in a carriage that was overturned. I was pulled out, and I don't remember anything after that. What became of my mother?
And she closes her eyes, and she thinks, and she goes, I apologize, but I don't know. It's all I see is gray swirling mist.
Thank you, I suppose, for trying.
Wait, his mother is a wraith?
Wait, is that in character? 'Cause
Yes.
And
Jaylin shoots you a dangerous look.
And she goes, actually, I think in order to know more about your mother, you would need to speak with a ghost of some kind. I think it is wherever she is. It is not a place of life. It is no longer within this world. It might be on the other sides. It might be beyond the Black Gates. And she goes, but I don't think she's dead. It's hard. And she's like, but a ghost is neither alive nor. And she sort of stumbles. She goes, I apologize. It's not clear. But I do think that the answers to that questions lay among a spirit. A spirit. Yes. Yes. And I hope that by itself is a good enough answer.
There's a necromancer when you need one.
And Gertrude shudders. And she goes, the only necromancers I know of are the Abyss Walkers. And she makes sort of a sign to the Allfather. And she goes, and I pray that none of them stalk these lands. But even as she says that, she inhales her breath. And she looks at Jaylin and she goes, but they stalk you. You've eluded them several times already, haven't you?
Several? At least one.
I sense that not all of your companions have been so lucky.
No.
And then she looks at him and goes, and I'm sorry for your loss.
He says nothing. He's actually just, no, he's got no words.
All right. So, Rolly is going to take Kethra up the tower to go talk to the Griffin Master. But while the two of them are going off to do that, the rest of you role play among yourselves for a couple of minutes. I need to step away from the computer.
Okay.
Are we taking a breaky poo?
Well, we could.
We are taking a breaky poo.
Breaky poo.
Breaky poo. Wait, don't break the. What? No. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to Mario Odyssey real quick. No. Good God, that game is addictive.
I'll breaky your poo.
No, Yumi, no.
Banned. Too hot for Twitch.
Okay, but I'm gonna go get some water in my long, hard water bottle.
What?
Why is that thing?
Why, Yumi? Why you do this?
No, Jaylin's story is kind of weird because like this is so recent for him because he's so young, but to this world this was years ago. Like years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now he's like ghosts. And he really should have asked about his sister, but oh,
I can kind of understand that question though, because we have an idea of his sister at least,
right.
but yeah, the mother is still unknown.
And then we got Mathin, the only good elf on the planet, apparently.
Who is currently a halfling, because apparently elves are bad.
Yeah, the elves and dwarves don't get along. Isn't that one of the first things we established?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
they intentionally keep dwarves off the island?
I'm also now super worried about walking into the dwarf king's, kingdom and as an elf, but never mind. This should be.
You will still be a halfling. Just hope Alexandra doesn't get knocked out.
I was going to say, is there a limit to that, or
it's concentration, I suppose.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's just gonna focus on the spell. So
Okay.
the spell as soon as she the way I'm justifying it is the -1 is until she breaks the actual spell on you.
So I have a
Okay.
I have a suggestion here.
Uh-huh.
Mathin shapeshifts into a goat. We then disguise the goat as a halfling. So should anyone see through the illusion, they just see a goat. They still don't see an elf.
See, when I had originally said they don't have to see me as an elf, that had been my thought, was I would change into an animal of some kind.
Can we bring the moss bear back, please?
I actually thought it would be kind of appropriate, or at least now anyway, for him to change into a wolf and stick close by to Jaylin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. That also gives me my full spellcasting ability back. I like this idea.
And like, because it's me, any command you give me or anything, like, you're going to have the appearance of having complete control over this wolf.
I even have a magic pendant that says I can do that. Not that I need it.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of suddenly, this great wolf prince has turned up and he has this great wolf by his side.
That's a really great idea.
And remember, not all necromancers are evil.
Mm-hmm.
I actually almost made a necromancer before I made a changeling.
I'm having a lot of fun with my one.
Yeah, he's certainly something. He nearly gets himself killed, but by friendly fire.
Well, he's doing it to better understand death.
Yes, this is it.
Exactly. I'm just helping.
And I'm helping.
Right. In that game, Faulkner is just convinced that the powers that be are continuing to have Victoria hurt or not be able to help him specifically, and even Bo specifically, to get to her.
Yeah.
To get under her skin. He's like, this isn't your doing. This is something making you doubt yourself. But anyways, Mathin is a wolf. Mathin is
Hell yeah.
Mathin is
So,
a wolf.
before we get back into it, am I being too lewd at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Yumi, last session that we played, they made me roll to determine the endowment of Jaylin, so no. No.
What did he roll?
He rolled a 6.
He rolled a 6.
He rolled a 6. He's fine.
Oh,
What do you mean, no? You guys not know how 6 is fine. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Oh, that reaction was perfect.
I loved it. I was like, no, 6 is normal. It's fine.
Sidebar here. There is such a thing as too big. Let me just say that, and then we'll just go ahead.
I don't know, Kethra, is there
such a thing as too
big?
small?
And Kethra is a tiny little girl, so yeah.
No.
So 6 is
But
just
bigger.
fine for her.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Goldilocks of dicks. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
You're the one that brought this up.
I did bring this one up. I brought it up this time. Hello, Twitch.
I'm
Hi, Twitch.
very tempted to
Oh my god.
to go further on that.
There's this
but
one going on YouTube as well. Hi, YouTube.
Thanks for
Yes.
demonetizing this video. Love you.
To be
Oh
fair, we
my
have to
God.
monetize it to have it demonetized.
No, it's alright. Kethra is not a size queen. Why? Why are we doing this?
I've actually seen videos that fail to upload get demonetized on Grant's YouTube channel. It's ridiculous.
Really?
Thank you, Martkos.
Yes.
Like, this didn't even get uploaded. Demonetized.
I was so fucking confused.
Hmm.
Wait, if a video that isn't uploaded gets demonetized, do they just come to your house and start taking money out of your wallet?
Yes.
I don't know.
Essentially.
By the way,
We're
can
now
someone
halfway
please...
through fucking uploading this video, and I go online to like re-upload it, and I look at it there, and it's like, this video failed to upload. This video has been deemed unsuitable for most advertisers.
By the way, can someone please reassure me that I'm not crazy and that there is actually a face in that mountain?
Yes, there's a face in the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see something very different, but okay.
So Laurel, to try and
Yeah.
bring things back on the track. I don't
Yeah.
know if you heard, but we were discussing like the kind of dwarf elf sort of tense relationship, and the fact that Mathin is now going to be walking into, you know, the very heart of the dwarf and to the king. And we were thinking, instead of maintaining this halfling disguise, I'd kind of like Mathin to take the form of a wolf and stick close by to Jaylin, to kind of, you know, boast of that whole wolf prince.
Absolutely.
Okay. So do you want me to roll for that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Don't fuck it up.
I know.
Laurel, very nice token for the dwarf there.
Thank you. Very
Yes.
nice. You are a wolf. You get +1 to strength, +1 to dex, +1 to stamina, and you can maintain it until you are asleep or unconscious.
Okay.
Alright, I would like to attempt to knock Mathin out.
Later, Alexandra, later. We make camp later.
Make camp? You mean that thing? Oh, I'm not interested in him.
Oh.
Meanwhile,
Back at the ranch.
back at the ranch, or back at the Rivers Gate, east, you ascend up the mountain to the town above, which is fairly military in style. It's clearly here is where they have the people who are on lookout and the armory and whatnot, and people stationed on guard, looking out in all the directions. And in the very center of it is where the griffins are nested. And there look to be about 6 of them here and 6 of them on the other side that are for hire. And as Rolly heads up there, and he goes, this is Mono, the griffin master, and he goes, hello master. He goes, master, what, God, I just said the word, mono,
Mana?
Mono, I think. Yep.
Master Mono. This is Mistress Kethra, and she and her companions have important business with the king, but they are short on coin. And Master Mono snorts and he goes, you know, if I had a coin for every time I heard that people were short on coin, I wouldn't have to be the Griffin Master.
So this is just Kethra and Rolly right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he looks at Kethra and he goes, "You don't seem the sort that would have important business with the king."
And Kethra just smiles at him and says, "Well, I personally do not have business with the king, but my master, the Wolf Prince, does."
And he goes, "The Wolf Prince was assassinated years ago."
No, his father, the king, King Alexander, was. I speak of his son, Jaylin.
He goes, "Prince Jaylin's alive?" And Rolly goes, "He's not only alive, he's downstairs. He is at Tavern on the Round." And he goes, "And Gertrude just pronounced him in front of everyone." And Master Mono takes a moment and kind of brushes his face and looks at Kethra consideringly. And he goes, "How many of my griffins do you need?"
Well, we have myself, the prince. We have a young boy, another female companion, a fairy. And she's not sure what to call Mathin yet, because when she last left, he was a changeling.
Halfling.
Or a halfling. And so she's like, at the very least, probably 3 or 4.
I'd say the transformation into the wolf will probably happen on the journey, just because I don't think it'd be a great idea for him to suddenly become a wolf in the tavern.
Okay.
So yeah, it would still be a halfling.
So then we have a halfling and our young master dwarf here.
He goes, "Very well. I will turn over to you 3 of my gentlest and most reliable griffins without charging you. But I will expect compensation at a later date, worth more than the fare itself. And the fare would be 12 gold."
That's a very steep fare, my friend.
He goes, "It's a long and dangerous journey."
I shall make sure that the king is aware of your generous assistance. I'm sure he'll be most grateful, considering such an important guest will be gracing his court soon.
And he goes, "All right, I will get them prepared." And he goes, "Go bring your companions up, and you should be ready to leave within half an hour."
Kethra nods and says, "Thank you, Master Mono. Your generosity will not go forgotten."
And he nods curtly. And Rolly looks at you as you both head back down the stairs. And he goes, "I've never personally liked him, but that's just because he's a proud and arrogant and greedy son of a bitch. And I was just a sheep farmer."
And Kethra just smiles. "Yeah, I can see the greed."
He goes, "Besides, traveling by Griffin is the safest way going through. The hills are infested with trolls. And there's other things that go on in the valley." He goes, "It's not easy being a farmer. In fact, it was probably one of the trolls that ate my sheep."
"I am sorry for the loss of your sheep, friend."
"Thank you." Meanwhile, back downstairs, the merchant has approached the group. And he stretches out one of his ringed hands to Jaylin. And he goes, "I am Master Thitdran Brewtank. It is an honor and a pleasure to meet you, Your Highness."
Please, just call me Jaylin.
"Jaylin, Just call me Thitrin.
I'll try my best.
He goes, is there anything that I can do to assist you and your companion?
We are looking to, No, actually, not at this moment.
Because, well, at least allow me to take care of your bill here at the tavern, so that you have a good meal and good drink before you depart.
That would be very generous of you. I'd appreciate that.
And he beams and he goes, but of course. And he's like claps Jaylin up on the upper back, and he goes, I hope we become good friends, Your Highness. He goes, I'm not headed home. I'm headed outwards from here, but I do live in the capital city. And I think, what did I call that? Steelforge?
Yes, yeah, I think it goes to, yeah.
And he goes, and I should be back within a week. So if your travels have you there in the city in a week from now, please, by all means, call upon my hospitality. And if you should need anything before then, my wife is named Lola. And just go ask for Lola, the mistress of the House of Brutank.
I will keep that in mind.
I will send a message for her to keep an eye out for you and yours.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
But of course.
Master Dwarf, there is
Yes.
something that the party may need.
Yes, milady.
If you would be able to get us a yellow-toed dusk rabbit before we manage to leave today, I'm sure my family would pay you handsomely.
A yellow-toed dusk rabbit.
Yes, they're native to these hills.
And he sighs and he goes, They are native, and I will send, but I don't think they're actually sold. They tend to be a favorite food of the trolls, and so I will do my best. I will send someone out, a hunting party out for one right now. But I know for certain that none of the shops here have any in stock. And Elle, write down for me what that was. Send it into the chat. What it was that you just asked for. Because me and my sieve-like brain aren't going to remember.
Well, Laurel, actually, it was something that Alexandra was just making up. The species doesn't actually exist.
Well, it actually turns out that she made up something that does exist.
Well, if they bring her one, she's gonna be impressed.
Tell me, the GM, what it was, because it was kind of funny.
A yellow-toed dusk rabbit.
That's the search party going out looking for it right now.
Yep. Yep. He's like, he's got people out, and you can even see him talking to his guards, and they're kind of like scratching their heads. And he's going, and you can actually, by just watching their conversation, he's going, no, I've heard of them. He goes, they're just a favorite food of the trolls. So you'll have to head into the hills. But quickly, go find one. And he sends his guards off. And he settles down at his table. And you guys, by the time Kethra and Rolly return, there is a feast put out in front of you all. And everybody who wants to wrap up and package leftovers can gain an extra day of dungeon wrapping.
That's exactly what Jaylin planned to do with it. He's like, okay, we got ourselves some travel food.
Yay!
And yeah, cause he's like, I don't want to put myself in debt to a merchant just yet. That's what he says to the others after everything is settled.
Don't worry, Jaylin. If he doesn't bring you that rabbit, then you shouldn't expect to be paying.
Well, I'm pretty sure he'll do that out of the kindness of his heart.
And Rolly snorts and goes, merchants don't have hearts.
He was just trying to get his leg in with the future king.
The future king of what? He goes,
Of donkeys!
He goes, what kingdom do I have left?
Well, that is the problem. We're gonna retake your kingdom, your highness. Now quit being such a doubter. It doesn't suit a prince.
Jaylin's looking at Lilith and going, did you say doggies?
Yes. That's what she said, right?
I imagine Kethra comes up to the group as Alexandra is telling him that, being such a doubter is not becoming of a prince. And I just kind of put my hand on his shoulder. You're much cuter when you're smiling,
He smiles. And he actually goes, I still think these tables are pretty sturdy.
And Iago goes, so are you guys going to dance on the table?
And Lilith, like, without giving Jaylin a chance to respond, Lilith will jump up onto the table and grab Iago up with her and start dancing.
And they dance, and he's laughing. Some of the innkeeper is like rubbing his forehead, but he doesn't complain. Or should I say the tavern keeper.
And Jaylin looks at Kethra and goes, I haven't seen him this happy in a while.
She just kind of smiles and says, none of us have been this happy in a while, my friend.
Any luck with the griffins?
Yes. Once we are ready, we can make our way up to back to the top. We will have mounts in within half an hour. However, he does expect to be paid in full and then some upon our return.
Jaylin looks across the bar at
gold.
Jaylin looks across the bar at the merchant. Doesn't say anything, just looks in his direction. Over to where he's sitting at his table.
And the merchant raises his mug and kind of salutes when he sees Jaylin's eyes upon him.
And Jaylin does the same.
Have you found us a benefactor?
Last resort.
Fair enough.
A rabbit hunter, you could say.
He goes, I hope that the king might actually come through with a reward before we have to rely on him.
Well, I did tell the Griffin Master that I would make sure the king knew of his generosity. I hope you're right.
Shall we get a move on?
Yeah, we should probably head off.
And when you guys get back up to the top, there are 3 griffins waiting for you all.
I recognize that griffin.
You do? He your friend?
I swear I
What's his
killed
name? Is he nice? Is it a girl griffin?
I wonder, has Jaylin ever ridden a griffin?
You tell me.
I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll. And, yeah. No. He knows nothing about riding griffins.
You know nothing about anything.
You're about Alexandra, good God.
You know nothing, Jay Snow.
Take your points.
Uh-huh. Nope. Mathin probably doesn't need to ride griffins. He could probably turn into one.
Yeah, like he's never really needed a mount.
Mathin is the mount.
And,
or if you prefer,
okay.
Mathin's the one that gets mounted.
No.
Not
I was going to say that Kethra's training covered mounting. Because clearly she rolled me up.
Wow.
I am so sorry.
Did they teach you how to mount werewolves too?
Elle, roll 2d6 for me for Iago and the Griffins. And this isn't about him writing it. It's how they react to him. So, we learned something very important about griffins and werewolves. Griffins don't like werewolves.
Uh-oh.
Because as soon as you guys all get there, these 3 supposedly calm and docile griffins all start rearing back and charge Jaylin.
Uh-oh.
And the master's trying to calm them. He's waving his hands around. He's using a staff to try and...
Can I do something incredibly stupid?
Absolutely, always.
Do you think they would understand a submissive gesture?
You won't know until you try.
The real question is, does Jaylin think they would understand a submissive gesture?
Well, he's thinking like he would think, and he's like, well, I don't want to fight here, so I either dominate them or I submit. So you could parlaying based on charisma?
Yes, it is.
Oh god.
So describe your submissive gesture.
No.
I will describe. So Jaylin goes down
on his knees,
and tries to show belly to one of the griffins, and making a whining, sound in the base of his throat. The griffin responds by lashing out with one of those front paws and is going to attempt to rake him and his armor. Jaylin, roll 1d8 for me.
Oh gosh.
It doesn't pierce the armor.
It does nothing.
Meanwhile, the master Mono whacks it in the head with his stick. And he goes, "Sarah, bad girl." And he's like bellowing, and the other 2 are still ignoring him, but she backs off. And the other 2 are coming after Jaylin Still. What does everyone else want to do?
So he goes, okay, they respond to dominant gestures. Got it.
Lilith will take her walking staff and try and smack another one in the head with it.
Go for it.
He's like,
Shoot, is my walking is a staff strength, I guess?
Yeah.
Fun.
That is, however, good enough to whack it. Now roll charisma to get the commanding voice down.
Hey.
Perfect. Yeah. You beat the other griffin off of him, which leaves just one more.
And Alexandra would like to step in.
Absolutely.
And I would like to cast a spell to create a wall of flames between Jaylin and the griffins.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I will point out there is straw and such here. Do not fail. Do not buy.
Don't fuck this up, Elle. Oh, thank God.
You have complete control of your wall. Describe how you want to maneuver.
And it's just going to be a big wall of flames just between Jaylin and the griffins to keep them back. And then she's just going to give the one griffin that's still running loose just a rather menacing look.
And it cowers. And it backs off. And all three of them are kind of cowering in the corner. And Master Mono is like rubbing his face, and he goes, more than 12 gold. He goes, you are all worth, this is the trouble you are causing me is I'm doubling my fee.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it was your griffins that attacked us. If anything, you owe us compensation.
He goes, no, it's not my fault that they don't like him.
I stand up.
And Kethra
I'm
is going
standing
to
up.
know.
I'm standing up. You can say something. You can still say it. He's just standing up.
Kethra turns on him and says, you knew beforehand he was the Wolf Prince. This is not what we agreed upon. I would hate for the wrath of the king to come down on you should our honored guest not be able to make his majesty's acquaintance.
Can I roll charisma here?
Yes, you can.
Hold on a second. he tries. Okay, so this is not Jaylin at all, which is why this is failing. And he goes because he's never going to be the one to complain about this sort of thing. He goes, yes, I came here and I was attacked. What are you going to do about that? I was attacked.
And he goes, let them eat you for all I think of you. Meanwhile, Iago walks up to one of the griffins, is like talking to it softly, and is like nuzzling his hand. And Master Mono's like, get your boy away from my griffin. I'm not, you know what? We're done. I'm not going to loan you my mounts. Just get out of this tower.
Jaylin looks at the others and goes, guys, he doesn't know how persuasive I can be.
Please don't do anything stupid, Jaylin.
That sounds like a bad idea, Jaylin.
And Jaylin just turns and takes a step towards the dwarf. Just one step.
And the dwarf, he's like gripping his staff, and he goes, I dare you.
You dare me now. You dare me. Well,
And he goes, I will call the militia, and you will go to the king in a cage in chains, like your kind deserve.
He's a racist dwarf.
Jaylin says, "Aren't they all?" And then he what was the out of character? What was the name of the merchant?
The merchant was Thitrin Brutank.
Yeah, the Brutank. He's like he's like you is that what's gonna happen? He's like, clearly, he goes, clearly you're mistaken. He goes, clearly you are going to go down into the tavern and discuss your fees with the merchant of House Brutank.
And Rolly jumps in at that point and says, "He did say he would do anything that Prince Jaylin required of him. He will pay you." And Master Mono goes, "Fine." He goes, "But from here on your heads be it. It's not my fault if one of them throws you off." And he just like steps back out of the way to let you guys figure out how to mount and ride away on the griffins.
And as Jaylin walks past, he goes, "It's your lucky day. You got out of this with your life."
He spats on the floor. And he goes, "May it be your unlucky days."
And Kethra just like over her shoulder says, "I would hate for your wife to hear from your mistress."
And he gets this furtive look on his face. And he goes, "You don't know what you speak of." And he looks a little worried.
Hospitable folk, aren't they?
So can I try and make a persuasion?
Absolutely.
And Alexandra's just gonna walk up to him and just whisper in his ear and just say, "I'd hate for your wife to hear about you wearing her clothing while she's gone."
And he gets a confused look on his face.
Don't do it. This is out of character because I don't hear the whispers. Oh my god. She did it. She did
Lilith's
it.
gonna start giggling.
And can I count that as my caster spell as well, or do you want me to roll that?
Absolutely. You can count that as both. Describe what you do.
And of course, the dwarf is just going to appear in high heels and just a rather nice looking dress, and his underwear are going to change as well, and he's going to feel that.
And he just flips out. And he shrieks and he steps back and he trips and he falls into the hay. Meanwhile, Iago is like petting the other griffins and is talking to them, and he goes, "They're gonna be good now, Jaylin. You don't have to worry. But you and me should ride together. Maybe us and Kethra. With you in the middle."
Thank you. You did good.
And he beams, and Master Mono is like spitting and shrieking and just yelling at you all to get out there, and like throws one of his shoes at Alexandra, but it misses by a mile.
I am going to remember that, dwarf. Heels hurt if they hit you.
It's true. Heels are dangerous weapons, guys.
So, we're going to have Iago, and Jaylin, and Kethra on one griffin.
Yep.
Before Jaylin mounts it, like Mathin kind of like tugs on his sleeve, and he's like, I don't suppose you could give me a hand, like for appearances, because at the moment he's still a halfling."
That moment, Jaylin's like, he looks at him and he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure." And then he like cups his hand so he could step into it and lift him up onto the.
And the other four of you divide yourself up into pairs. One with Rolly.
We're sending Roly with Mathin.
Question. I have a question.
Yes.
Question. I have a question. I have wings.
Oh, you can in fact flutter along. You're probably not as fast as a griffin.
Probably not.
But you can fly. You'll just they're probably faster than you are.
Ride the griffin. Turn into the griffin. Oh wait, you don't have that move yet. Soon.
I can talk to the griffins, but I can't turn into griffins. I can only turn into humans.
Alrighty. Now, we're going to make the griffin flights potentially short. By each group, pick somebody in your group. Well, Mathin, you're kind of stuck because
Yeah.
everybody else gets to pick one person to roll Defy Danger.
Ooh, can it be me? Can it be me?
Yes.
I don't even get a say in this.
Okay, you do get a
Defy Danger.
answer fast enough.
I could. Jaylin can handle the Defy Danger if you'd like, or
What are we defying danger about?
because it's me
The flight
or
itself.
What are we rolling?
Wisdom.
Oh,
It'll be Defy Danger.
Maybe Kethra ought to defy danger for us.
yeah.
What's your wisdom modifier?
Good enough.
Oh, yeah, good enough. Fuck it.
It's
a
0,
trio
by
of
the
8.
way.
Alrighty, everybody does well, and the griffins take you what would have taken you a week. You had reached town pretty early in the morning, and the sun has not yet set when you guys and your griffins are all the way over to the other end. I'm just moving one griffin for now.
Well, one of us made it.
That's it. We made it. We're over. It's done.
It seems Alexandra and Lilith went for a detour on the way.
Yep. And as sometimes happens in a online campaign, I had actually imagined when I was setting all of this up that you guys were going to go to the tomb first because I didn't expect certain things to go the ways they did. So I made the tomb map and I got all that laid out and I got those monsters laid out, but I didn't actually lay out a map for the Dwarven city yet.
Laura, want me to look through my stash?
Yeah, you can look through the stash. Or in this case, I'm just going to kind of play the rest of this session by ear. We're just going to stay on this one map.
That works.
Okay.
But let's do some description of the Dwarven city. As you're flying towards it on the griffin back, Jaylin, what do you see?
I see that my physical therapist is actually going to be here in 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, game will continue to go during that, but I'm going to be like AFK for like 30 minutes at least. So, yeah.
That'll work. In that case, what we're going to do is we're probably going to split the party, and Jaylin's going to be in private conference with the king at that point in time, and the rest of you are going to get to explore.
Okay.
So actually, Elle, go ahead and will you map hunt for me?
Sure, I'm just looking through now.
Awesome.
I have a lot of cat girls in this folder for some reason.
Dio, are
Yes.
you like going to be have to be leaving? Do you know what your plans are yet?
No. Looks like I'm good for now.
Okay.
So
I was just thinking if we were going to lose 2, it may be better just wrapping up. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dwarves like their stonework, so this is probably like carved into like all the city itself is probably like inside of a mountain and on top of it. So you see like balconies and stuff of like where like caves walk out into like a balcony area, peeking out of the side of the mountain, but inside of it there's more going on there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Laurel, in the Dungeon World chat there, would that be a good enough map?
Dungeon World map.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, just get rid of the name, like that can easily be covered by like a box.
On my server Dungeon World channel. I like it. Spoilers, it's on screen.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Also, damn you, Cospro. He intentionally avoided fighting them, and suddenly he's the bad guy. It's like I should have just like knocked them all up upside the head, and then like knocked the dwarf upside the head too. I guess that seems to be what they.
I mean, he didn't threaten to cook one of the griffins.
I really thought you were going to change for a second.
Well, that's actually what he was thinking about doing when he was approaching the guy. He was going to just turn into a werewolf and be like, "Hey."
I almost wished you had, because I would have took that moment to turn into the wolf.
Oh man. And so you guys have an opportunity to fly directly into the city, like you're headed towards. There's clearly there's a military griffin nest, and these 3 griffins are headed straight to the commercial griffin nest. Like they are now on homing pigeon kind of patterns and attitudes. And Mathin, roll. I'm trying to think. Actually, roll intelligence.
Okay. Nope.
You are not going to be able to change and be completely unnoticed by the Griffin Keeper here on this end. Unless you sneak around. But right now, all he sees is a half getting off. You'll have to kind of scout around to find a place to do your shape-shifting out of sight.
Okay. So I don't know, like, do the griffins have, like, stalls?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so, and would there be, like, kind of like a commotion with us arriving and...
New griffins not really being fond of the werewolf arriving?
Yeah.
Jaylin?
I want to roll for a distraction.
Yeah, go ahead and either make a distraction roll or make a defy danger roll.
Yeah, based on what stat?
I will let you pick.
I guess it's charisma. Okay, 8.
So, describe what you do.
Jaylin is doing his best to intentionally exude the fact that he's not completely human. In fact, he might have actually shifted his eyes.
You have the griffins at this point in time, the ones that are stabled here, kind of spooked. So they're not attacking you, but they're acting very restless and very furtive, and they have all of the handlers are busy trying to keep them contained and kind of muttering and going, "What's wrong with you all today?"
Yeah, so...
And he's totally just doing the very tall, like, I'm very important walk as they're leaving, but not really leaving.
So as all as that commotion's going on, I'm going to duck into, like, an empty stall, and slip into that wolf form, and the next thing the group will know is there's just a wolf padding over, and it comes up to Jaylin and does like a very like it kind of bows and like lays its head between its paws to him, kind of submitting. Then it's just going to sit next to Jaylin.
No problem. We already got the rules of all of that taken
Yeah.
care of. That's easy enough. And I'm uploading a city map now. Thank you, Elle. You're
So,
amazing.
No problem.
Jaylin says that the wolf is named Bear. And he says, good to see you, Bear.
What a strange name for a wolf.
Why
It's
like
a rather
the tongue
large
kinda...
wolf.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not quite like the dire goat, but yeah, it's a sizable kind of sizable wolf, and yeah, it being called Bear, like my tongue just kind of lolls out to the side, and I kind of like wolf muttly laugh.
You would.
The wolf can laugh. I wonder what it would look like in a dress.
What's it with you and putting everyone in a dress?
It's a great defense. I've not killed anyone yet.
I don't know if Alexandra or Iago is my favorite yet. Lilith's favorite, that is. Lilith's favorite.
Oh.
Alexandra just likes to use illusion magic to fuck with people.
She would.
Of course. You guys have met her grandfather in the other game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you have. All right. I am about to flip you all.
Excuse me. That's not appropriate.
Bye, tokens. I miss you.
I know, right? Welcome to Steelforge.
Ooh, pretty.
And right now you're just a group that are on top of the Griffin Keep.
I'm still not allowed access to the group token.
Nobody wants you to have it. Nope. Sorry.
None of you have it right this moment in time. I will fix that. I just need to do.
I'm sorry. Is that a road to Haven?
Yeah, so it is.
Can we take it?
Yeah.
Can we take it?
That's awesome. That's actually really awesome.
As a matter of fact, it is a road to Haven. It doesn't work
Is
quite
this-
so.
Is this the map? I think it is, Elle.
Yeah, it's the one where you almost died because of a dragon.
Okay. How appropriate that you keep putting everyone into dresses and then we come here again.
Is this where... Okay.
Yeah, this is where you all had to cross-dress and break into a city.
Mhm.
Okay.
And where we fought well, we didn't fight the Earth Dragon, but we freed him.
All right. Now everybody can move the group. You are in the Dwarven City. And Rolly goes, I suppose now we try to get you an audience with the king? I'm just a peasant. I've never done anything like that before. You're not going to tell him that I tried to steal from you guys, right? Like, you're not going to talk about me being a bandit. Like you're gonna tell him that I've been your faithful and loyal companion.
Do we look like the kind of people to fly you all the way here just to bring you to the king and tattletale on you?
And Ketra's just gonna reach down and give a light little tug on his beard and say, "Not so long as you behave yourself, Master Dwarf."
That'd be funny, though.
Okay. So he marches you all to the nearest soldiers. And this is a dwarven city, so there are dwarven guards in pairs with the armor and the pikes and whatnot all over the place. The city itself, I mean, think Ironforge
And WoW.
in
Yeah.
WoW.
Hmm.
The the layers below are where the crafting and the hauling of metals is done. The upper part of the city is very well populated. Um, while it's set high in the mountains because of some kind of unique geographical features. There are roads that go off in various directions, and the roads aren't necessarily above ground, and the roads aren't necessarily so much roads as they are tunnels that lead to portals. Um, Rolly is completely out of his depths and just in awe. He's never been to the capital city before. So he's not able to play guide. He just tells you the things that those kind of details about it that he knows from stories about Steelforge. And he takes you to some of the guards, and the guards are kind of eyeing you all, but in a very calm way. They're looking at Jaylin in particular because he's the one that's in armor. And Rolly goes and kind of clears his throat and 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 says, I am Rolly, sheep herder of the Swift Rock clan, and I have been serving Prince Jaylin Taus as a guide and loyal servant. And this is his retinue. He has business with the king.
Nice.
And they don't say anything right away. They just kind of eye you all.
I meet their
Who wants-
gaze.
Jaylin, roll charisma.
Are you sure?
Give yourself +1.
No. No. It's a 5 after the +1.
And the two of them kind of raise their pikes
He looks uncomfortable.
and they go, lay down your weapon to Jaylin.
And he takes a moment to think about that. And this will be returned to me.
And he goes, you can leave your weapons with your companions. But and then the other one goes, out of your armor as well. Strip down to your underclothes before we take the likes of you to the king.
And Lilith will cover her mouth. And then she'll slowly move her hands down and say,
And Ketra's really?
Jaylin turns and goes, Don't worry about this, and he starts to actually strip down.
That dwarven hospitality that grandfather always told me about.
Yeah, they've been such gracious hosts.
Is this really necessary?
And the guards don't even respond to that, but they pat Jaylin down.
It's like he's in like a pair of like shorts and a I don't know. At the very I don't know what he's wearing.
Like a tunic.
Yeah.
Under tunic.
There's
like
an
an
anime
under-tunic.
nosebleed coming out of
Yeah.
Lilith's nose.
And like there's like nowhere for him to hide anything, and they're still patting him down. And he's
And
nowhere for him to hide anything.
and he's just standing there looking like he hasn't. Like he's actually taking this rather well, considering all the times that he transformed in front of a party.
and one of the guards goes, "One of you may come with him."
Alexandra's gonna step forward at that and say, "I shall go. I've had dealings with dwarves in the past."
He
And they go,
stops and he looks
"Reboot."
to the wolf.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that include someone else outside of me? Because, yeah.
They were clearly including the wolf as
Okay.
the wolf could be the one of them.
Okay.
Could be the one of them. Okay.
Because he actually he insists. He goes, he doesn't leave my side.
Goes very well, you and the wolf. That way we don't have to strip search one of the women. I prefer that.
Oh, darling, you wouldn't be able to strip search me even if you tried. My father would be able to burn you even across the world.
And that gets the guards goes, then you're definitely not going to go see the king. And he turns to his companion and he goes, "I'll take this so-called prince. You should keep your eyes on the others." And he nods. And the one guard takes Jaylin and will continue with Jaylin and the wolf until the door we get interrupted. And he takes you forward, and the two of you are headed into the keep. And as you pass through the gates here and the tower here, you see the keep itself is just this beautiful all carved stone with pedestals of giant
I've gotta go.
dwarven statues. Awesome. And there we go.
All right.
And the wolf
Will you be able to if the physical therapist says?
She's just got a leg.
Alright, he's undone it now.
Okay,
Okay.
good. We're back. Pook was a goof and freaking muted us.
Sorry, we're back.
Because if he doesn't have to hear us, neither do you.
Okay,
So
we got audio fixed.
Mm-hmm.
We're back. And so the guard, as I was saying, while we were muted, the guard does recognize Alexandra's father's name and his excellent relations with the king and Steelforge, and he immediately apologizes. And he goes, um, and I apologize. There's just been recent events that have us. We've had to double our security, and this isn't something that I can discuss with you myself. But let me take you to the captain of the guard, and we will get you into some private chambers worthy of your station.
Thank you. Now make sure me and my companions want for naught while we are here. We've already been treated rudely enough by the Griffin Master.
And he goes, have you? I'm sorry. And he goes, Captain Tabera will not like to hear that at all. And he takes you to Captain Tabera Undershield, who I don't currently have a token for, but she is a dwarven paladin of the Allfather. And she the guard explains who you are and who you came with to her, and she looks immediately interested, and she doesn't question the whole that Prince Jaylin was dead. In fact, she seems to like she's heard rumors, perhaps rumors of Jaylin and all of you from somewhere. That's kind of the impression that you get, not necessarily the rest of you by name, but the idea that the Wolf King's heir was alive. And she goes, would you prefer quarters? Would you prefer that I take you to my personal quarters, or would you like me to take you to other quarters, either within the Order of the Allfather or within the palace? Which of these three places would you like to go?
And Alexandra looks to Kethra and Lilith at this point. And it's just like, so where would you guys like to stay?
Considering all we've been through, I'd think the most comfortable.
And Captain Tabera goes, then that would definitely be the path. And he leads you guys in the same direction that Jaylin had gone. With the wolf. With Bear.
With the wolf, who's a bear, who's also an elf.
And goes, you look weird. He looks like you've been traveling for a while now. Did you come from the Great Forest or for someone else?
We came from the Great Forest. Rather spectacular place. Shame about its history.
And goes, it is very beautiful. Goes, it's unfortunate that there are still some hostilities between our land and the forest and the dragons that rule them both. And
There will
Iago put
always be
slice.
hostilities between dragons, though.
He goes, indeed. He goes, although I heard of a time, a long ago, that they actually truly warred upon and destroyed one another, but they were brought back by she who was Viola. He goes, I've only read a little bit of the details, but that was well over a millennia.
Dragons have strange histories with one another.
They do. He goes, but we fortunately have managed to, the city itself is under the protection of the Allfather, and no dragon claims it as their territory. The Allfather basically is our patron and has and protects us well. He even protects us against the Abyss Walkers.
Is the Allfather in the city?
The Allfather, through the temple, can be within the cathedral itself. I have done vigil and have communicated with him, but his realm is Valhalla, and it is way beyond the material world. He is a true god, not just an avatar of one.
Interesting. I would like to meet this Allfather eventually.
He goes, to my knowledge, only those of my race are able to commune with him, and even then he only reaches out to those who are considered great heroes in his eyes. Sometimes, in fact, even those of us who are touched by him will be taken upon death to become his soldiers within Valhalla. And she goes, it is my greatest desire to serve as a Valkyrie following my death.
Well, just to die in some heroic way, and I'm sure he'll take you.
He goes, I hope so. I hope I prove myself well to both, to my God, to my king, to my country. And she goes, I sense no one of evil intention among you all. And she goes, although you're a little shady. And she points to Rolly. And he goes, and he like sort of wrings his hands and grovels a little. And he goes, I made some bad choices, but Lady Kethra and Lady Alexandra and the rest of my new companions, they are getting me back on the road of law and justice. And he like stumbles over those words. And the paladin goes, as it should be. Although he kind of gives Kethra an interesting look and tilts his head a little, and he goes, you are not a servant of evil, but you are also not a servant of the Allfather, are you?
I'm afraid I am not. I am the servant of Bel, keeper of secrets, friends to thieves.
And Captain Tabera frowns when you say that. And she goes, well. And he goes, so. All I ask is that you be honorable and lawful within Steelforge, and do not fall to the temptation of taking that which does not belong to you here within my city. If you can agree to that, perhaps we can be friends.
And Kethra bows and says, Captain, I assure you, I deal only in secrets, not in thievery.
And and her expression clears, and she goes, that is a relief. And she goes, because, and at this point in time, you guys have entered a suite of rooms that have a balcony and really fancy furniture. This looks like the kinds of chambers that nobles would be having. And there's bowls of fresh fruit, and Iago immediately runs over, takes a bite out of a green apple, and goes, oh, this tastes so good. And Captain Tabera smiles, and she goes, and I apologize to you all that your reception was perhaps not as warm as it could have been. She goes, but there's been a great deal of stirring of the servants of Wiro, the Abyss Walkers, liches, all manner of evil within the mountains over the last 6 months. We have seen appearances of some of the wolf tribes, but they had gone back to their feral ways.
The wolf tribes? Where did you see these tribes?
He goes, up in the and she like takes a moment and she thinks, they were spotted around Mount Hammerhand, which is a peak that separates us from the coastal lands of the humans. It's the city of Lothric is on the far, far side of Mount Hammerhand. But there's a road that leads from here to the mountain. And there's some trading villages along the way. And then there is a portal there in Hammerhand that goes directly to Lothric. And it is around the portal that we've lost control of because the wolf tribes have claimed it. So we don't know if they were sent there by the Abyss Walkers and are going to try and use it to stage an attack on the city itself. We have shut that gate here on our side, but it's just one of many things that's been going on. And there was a theft just 3 days ago of he goes and he kind of looks and he goes of the king's own hammer. He goes the Draken hammer was stolen from the vaults.
Do you have any idea of what the culprit looked like?
No, there was no one seen entering or leaving the vaults themselves. And he goes, and there were other weapons and other treasures there, but only the hammer was taken. And he goes, the Draken hammer is what King Thoughtgoal, Goldshield, used to take down his father, Stormheart. After Stormheart was possessed by and he goes by Atan. He goes, are you familiar with that fallen deity?
No, I am not. Kethra, have you ever heard of it?
No. This is all new to me.
He is one of the what would be called the Death Lords. He controls not Valhalla, which is where the heroes, at least in Dwarven mythology, where the heroes go, but the underworld itself. Only his realm is not that of the sanctuary for the departed souls who are to be reincarnated, but he enslaves souls and has created a necropolis. And he is the god of the necromancer, and he is who the abyss walkers serve.
Sounds like a rather pleasant deity.
He goes, I was not alive 500 years ago. In fact, even King Nogin was only a child. He goes, while we're a long-lived people, we still generally only live 300 or 400 years. We are not like the elves or the dragons and immortal. And he goes, but according to the stories, King Stormheart made a pact with the god Aten, or Atan. And she goes, I've only read the name. I'm not sure. It's not a dwarvish name. He goes by many titles as well, because he made a pact out of desperation to destroy the elves of the Great Forest because they were trying to invade the valley. And he perhaps was tricked into it all. No one knows exactly sure what happened, but simply that he was possessed and his own weapon was possessed by the evil, and he turned on his own, and he unleashed a kind of magic that would have done worse horrors than it did if it hadn't been for his son and his own champion turning upon him. And his champions gave their lives to kind of bind the king. And they were just buried there in in the border valley by his son. And we know that the Draken hammer was part of what he used to do the binding, because it was a gift from the All-Father himself. So it going missing has us very, very worried, especially because there have been reports about treasure hunters trying to unseal the tomb. I hate to think what would happen if the tomb was unsealed by the Abyss Walkers, or even somebody who wasn't prepared to rebind the king. And I was being charged by the king to take the Draken hammer and go to the tomb. And I was going to leave the very next day with it. And lo and behold, I went down to the vault to take it, and it was gone.
Interesting. So you need the hammer to get into the tomb, I take it?
He goes, I don't know whether I need it to get into the tomb. The tomb was sealed, but it was sealed by Thokkel Gold Shield while he was channeling the All-Father through the Draken hammer. It's a weapon who will only serve those who are lawful and good.
Who normally has access to this vault?
Normally, the king, me as the captain of the guard, the head of the Wizards Guild, maybe 2 or 3 others, but they're all highly trusted, and I've questioned each and every one of them. And
Is it possible that any one of them could have betrayed your trust?
Because I could not discern any lies or detect any evil in all of them, in any of them. I don't think any of us who are there on the council would have done so. And I please take no offense about this, but this seemed to me to have been something that would have required the work of the servant of Bel or worse.
I take no offense. Unfortunately, there are some who worship my goddess that would use her favor for ill-gotten gain. I am not such a servant, I assure you.
And goes, I would be certainly willing to take you to the vault to see if perhaps you can discover something that I could not. And I would be most grateful for your assistance in trying to discover the whereabouts of the Drakenhammer.
Would you mind if I bring my pack? I feel like we will need the guidance of Bel herself, and that will require a ritual.
That is fine. And any of your companions that you have need of, those who would not like to stay here and rest, by all means. Allow me to just take a quick word to send one of the king's guards that are waiting outside, just to let the king know of what we're talking about and what's going on, and to make sure that the prince is delivered here himself when they are done. She goes, that is something else. She goes, about a couple of weeks ago, I had a very strange dream. I had a dream vision of a woman of my race who was garbed as one of the Valkyrie, but she was and and goes, she seemed, it's hard to describe, very old, very primal, like very savage. And he describes Meredith's features. And in my dream, this woman said, don't said, don't worry. The Wolf Prince and the Seekers of the Lost will help you. There, they will find their way to you. And then the dream ended.
And Kethra just kind of smiles. It's a very sad smile, but she does smile. I know this woman of whom you speak.
You do? Good. So that was why. And the only person I revealed this dream to, and this happened, like I said, a couple of weeks ago. At that time, the Drakenhammer was still in the vault, and we had not received word yet that the wolf tribes had seized Mount Hammerhand and the portal there. So at the time, circumstances didn't seem dire in any way. So I was just I told about the dream to the king, and we just kind of left it at that. We didn't speak about it again until the other night when we decided that I would take the Drakenhammer and go to take my best people and go find Stormheart's tomb, because we think there it might be there, if that's certainly something that needs to be secured, and see what's going on there, and then once that's secured, head on back to Mount Hammerhand with a larger force and deal with the wolf tribes. That was my plan then. Does Prince Jaylin have his father's ability to command all things wolf?
Unfortunately, that is something that I do not know. Our young prince is still learning much about his powers and about his own history.
And Captain Tabera nods. And she goes, hopefully he can. If he can wrest control and get his people pulled away from the influence of... She goes, well, I know some of them serve Wiro, but I'm not sure what's going on at Mount Hammerhand. She goes, I fear that it's the Abyss Walkers and Aten himself that are to blame.
I would not put it past Wiro to have teamed up with the Abyss Walkers. It wouldn't be the first time he's allied himself with an evil god. My father's library contains many, many stories of him.
And Captain Tabera nods her head and goes, I have only heard stories of him as the dragon of chaos and war, and him having servants of all manner of alignment, just whoever most entertain him. That he is a dragon that likes games.
I'm back. And
Welcome back.
me and Wonder Toys have a baby. It's the best baby. Everybody loves our baby.
Yay, baby! And he goes, but I personally have actually never met a true dragon. I have only spoken with some of the Dragonborn. And that's when Iago looks up and goes, what's a Dragonborn? And Captain Tabera kind of smiles and goes, the Dragonborn are a race of people who look like they're a little taller than humans, and they have reptilian features. They believe themselves to be the descendants of humans and dragons, and they populate the mountain. And Iago just kind of goes, huh. And then he looks at Kethra and he goes, so some dragons have sex with humans.
Oh, Iago. We will have to have a discussion with you much later, my friend. We will talk about that later.
And Captain Tabera pats Iago on the head and goes, "You're a very young human son. You don't need to be thinking about sex at all, much less sex with dragons." And Diaco just kind of giggles. He just and he grabs another apple. Meanwhile, so to catch you up really fast, Pook.
Mhm.
Alexandra had kind of intimidated the guard that was guarding them all and told him who her father was, and he recognized that this was a VIP. So he took them all to the female captain of the guard, Captain Tabera Undershield, who is a paladin of the Allfather. And they've actually had a very good conversation and they learned a lot of information from her and are now settled into some chambers in the palace. Meanwhile, you and your faithful companion Bear are taken straight to the king. And the king is waiting for you in the throne room. But the throne room itself is pretty empty. It is just him and two guards and a dwarven high cleric and a dwarven archmage.
And I'm wearing no clothes. Is that what's going on? Wait, what?
You're wearing your underclothes
Yeah.
with the wolf. And the king is kind of studying you as you're walking in, and he goes, "Son, where are your clothes?"
With my companions. You're. He kind of just. He says.
And the guard clears his throat, and he said, "He had weapons, sir." And the king looks at the guard and goes, "What's your name, son?" And he goes, Gadam, sir. He goes, Gadam of the Twilight Mall clan. And he sighs and he goes, "Well, Gadam, next time when you're bringing somebody with a title to me, let them keep their clothes. Let them keep their weapons. I have nothing to fear." And the guard looks really uncomfortable. And he's like, "Yes, your majesty." And the king makes a dismissive gesture at him. And he goes, "So, you are Prince Jaylin."
That is correct, yes. I am Jaylin Toss.
And he nods his head a little and he goes, "Your father and my father were very good friends."
Did you ever meet my father?
He goes, "Several times. Several times. Your father and mother both." Goes, "In fact, I was there at..." Laurel's brain goes out for a moment there. It goes, "I was there at Lothric at your christening and your sister's christening."
Jaylin has a sad look on his face.
And he goes, I should say, he goes, "At your naming ceremonies." And he goes, he goes, "Sadly, it looks like you have grown up ill. I had been received reliable reports that you had been killed by the Abyss Walkers.
No, Your Majesty. I don't know what transpired, but I did not know of this world until recently, when I returned. My memory's taken from me.
Return from where, son?
What was the? Was it Farland?
Yeah.
A place called Farland. Not here.
That is. And he looks at the Archmage, and the Archmage kind of clears his throat, and he goes, "That is part of the world tree that has been consumed by Visago, the demon lord."
Yes, Farland was under the Demon Lord's control.
He goes, "Visago is one is an ally of Atan, the the Lord of the Abyss." And the king kind of nods, and he goes, "I see. Well, welcome back, Jaylin." He goes, "You've arrived at a very interesting time. Um, the wolf tribes recently attacked Mount Hammerhand. Do you remember it? It's the red mountain that you can see from Lothric in the far west."
Do I remember that?
Roll intelligence or wisdom, your choice.
I'm gonna go with intelligence on this one. 7.
Vaguely. You remember that scene where your father and your mother were talking on the balcony and you were with them? You vaguely remember that the mountain is there far. And your father had spoken of it being the place where you guys had originally come from. The wolf tribes.
And
He used a different name.
yeah, and Jaylin looks to be deep in thought as like the memory comes back to him again, and he goes and he nods.
And he goes,
My father spoke of that place.
He goes, there was the Dragonborn protected that mountain. And unfortunately they were attacked by your people. And their portal, which separates our city and Lothric, the central portal, has been taken over. That entire mountain and all of its secrets have been taken over by the wolf tribes once more. Goes, there's been all kinds of things going on. My father's sacred hammer, which was a gift from the Allfather himself, just vanished from the vault hours before it was going to be taken by my captain of my guard, my well loved and well trusted Captain Tibara, to go and rebind Stormheart, and then taking some things that are there within Stormheart's trove to mount Hammerhand to secure it. And we have been gathering our own forces for months to attempt a siege of our own on Lothric to try and get it out of the Abyss Walkers. But now at this time, I'm afraid they're planning the same thing of a siege on us.
What? Is there anything I can do to assist?
Do you have your... He goes, your father controlled the wolf tribes. They obeyed and served him loyally. It was they gave up their barbaric ways and lived among humans and bred among humans. During your grandfather and father's times, and we had nothing but peaceful relations with them. If you could seize control of your own people again and give them to break them free from Tan's mastery without us having to slaughter them all, that would just make our own force stronger.
He grimaces at mention of slaughter of his people. I've not met another of my kind, nor could I assure you that I could control them. And then he remembers that he had a necklace on that is currently with the party.
Yeah. And he King Nogin gestures to your wolf companion. He goes, but you do have an affinity with the wolf, and at least some of them love and serve you.
Is that moment of like where he opens his mouth to say something and thinks better of it and looks down to the wolf and goes, not exactly, Your Majesty.
And Nogin kind of frowns in puzzlement and goes, what do you mean?
Bear is not as he seems.
And I'm going to take this for good or worse. I will take this moment to change back into my normal form.
I would not. I do not think that any future alliance to us should be built on a foundation of deception. This is my companion, Mathin.
And he kind of stares at Mathin and he goes, you're a druid of the Great Forest.
And Mathin's gonna kneel and bow his head to the king and say, I apologize for the deception. We did not know exactly what we were walking into, and thought relying on the stories of Prince Jaylin's infamy may help. We meant no harm and no wrong by this ruse. But yes, I am a druid of the Great Forest.
He goes, traveling through the south, traveling through the valley was probably just as well. We still have epic sagas of the Great War against the elves of the Great Forest. And while many of the sagas talk about the slaughter of them all, he goes, I know there have also been stories of here and there of some elves within the Great Forest who remain.
I can assure you that I mean no harm or to make war with your people. My only concern ever was to look after the forest.
And Noggin nods his head and he goes, I have no conflict with the great forest itself. It's only those creatures that come out of it, hungry and violent, who prey upon the citizens of the valley, that I have issue with. He goes, I have read the histories, and knowing what I know now about what happened to my grandfather. He goes, I think there were forces far beyond my grandfather and the queen of the forest, maybe even beyond the garnet and the green dragon, that manipulated us all into war upon each other so that Atan could be released and summoned and take over my grandfather and possess him and lay such waste upon the elves of the forest.
And Mathin gets to his feet and nods and says, I believe what you say. And now, as Jaylin has made the offer as well, I would like to offer my aid, however I can, in the hopes that this may start an easement between our people.
Because if you can help lead to an alliance between the mountains and the forest and help me put right the things that were done wrong by my grandfather and by the elves of that era. I mean, by both of our people of that era. Perhaps we can work together in the name of all that is lawful and all that is good.
And he nods again. I would like that, sire.
He goes, so I'm going to need a little bit of time to talk with my counselors, and the two of you, I should get. And at this point in time, the message has come that the captain, Tabera, has taken the rest of your companions to the palace, and the king nods and goods and goes, well, then I'm going to suggest that you both are return to your companions, that you have time to put on your clothes. And he kind of gives Jaylin an amused look. And make yourself comfortable and talk with your people. And I will talk with my people. And dinner is going to be served in an hour and a half. And I'm going to invite you and all of those in your party to sit at the grand table with me. And let's talk about what comes next.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Yeah, and Mathin bows and says thank you as well, and he looks forward to it.
And the two of you guys are taken back to everyone else. And that is where we're going to call game.
Yeah. On the way back to us, Mathin stops and puts a hand on Jaylin's shoulder and like turns him to face him. I kind of looks him in the eye and nods and says, "That was a good thing you did, breaking that ruse." And he just kind of smiles and said, "I think you'll be a wise leader one day."
Thank you. Hi. And he just like leaves it at that. He's just like, he's not so sure. Everybody else is like, hey, can you take control of these wolves? And he's just like, he goes, should I tell them that like just like a week ago I was not in control of my wolf? Nah. Okay, so that's game for today.
Yay!
So Jaylin's gonna get dressed again.
At least you weren't completely naked this time.
Right. He goes, "You know how embarrassing it is to meet the king of the dwarves wearing just your underclothes?" All right, so I'm gonna actually I'm gonna wrap up stream here. So anyone who's still with us, thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, or thereabouts. I'll probably be playing a lot of Mario Odyssey today. I'll find somebody to host. You guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging in there. And we're gonna go say hi to I'm gonna throw a host over to Smoke.